Hello and welcome along to the prediction show for the League One playoff final, which as this episode comes out, will be taking place tomorrow. Probably a bit of a surprise final between Wycombe Wanderers and Oxford United. And we're going to talk about the two teams, their semi-finals, their seasons, and what we think will happen in the final, most importantly. If it's anything like the League Two playoff final a couple of weeks back, I'm going to make myself look like a complete idiot. And these two will probably predict the right scoreline. Never go against Alan McCormack is the lesson we learn. So, we're going to talk about this final. If you are looking forward to this one, please put a thumbs up on it and subscribe down below. There'll be championship predictions tomorrow as well. But it's Wycombe Wanderers v Oxford. So, we're going to talk about the two teams and then we'll get to the final. And let's start with Wycombe Wanderers. So, Wycombe in the semi-final, a pretty comfortable victory against Fleetwood. Probably the first leg put it out of sight. And just as Fleetwood got goals in the second leg, Wycombe pegged them back each time. Give me your initial thoughts on Wycombe. Firstly, a massive achievement making it to the final, and then we'll go and talk about the individuals.
Yeah, well, they surprised me, to be honest. I think where we looked at back in pre-season, we all tipped them to go down.
Well, we owe an apology, don't we? It's the first thing.
No, we don't. But they were our predictions, and to be honest, I think they kind of expected not to be in the playoffs themselves. So, as you say, it's a massive achievement for them to even get to the final. To be honest, I think because they started well this season, didn't they? They were up there. They were up there pretty much until Christmas, and they fell away. And to be honest, they were out of the playoffs until the famous points per game ratio kicked them into third place, and they took advantage of that. And fair play to them to get into the final.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sorry, Charlie. I mean, one thing I do want to say on the predictions very quickly is that I think Gareth Ainsworth's quite openly talked about the fact he's got a newspaper article where they were predicted to finish 23rd behind Bolton, who had started with a points deduction, and using it as a motivation. So we've contributed to that, which we should be proud of. But sorry, Charlie, go ahead.
No, I was just going to add to that. I think what surprised us a bit, I know you said they tailed off a bit, Craig, but even is the longevity of them. Because I think the one thing that basically tipped us to think they were going to get relegated or be down there is the age of the squad. I mean, it's not the youngest of squads in that sense. So I think the longevity of it, I suppose any team can start well, but maybe the age of some of their players, I think that surprised a lot of people that they were still in and around it, even with a bit of a loss of form after Christmas, to still be in and around the playoffs with maybe, one of the oldest squads in the league. So I think they've surprised all us with that. But you listen to a few people, I know you spoke to obviously Joe Jacobson, but even a few other people in the media, and just about Ainsworth's leadership, and maybe we're discrediting him a bit as a manager and what, the impact he has on that team, in that sense. But anyway, we'll get onto that bit in a minute, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I wanted to move on to next was the squad. And as Charlie mentions, it's probably a bit of a two-sided street with Wycombe. They've got a lot of very experienced players who are sort of getting that, like an Akinfenwa, getting that last chance after being released from Wimbledon and doing really well. And they've got some very young players, but they haven't really got many that you'd consider in their peak. So obviously experience is going to play a part in a final. We saw that with Northampton in the League Two final. So having the likes of Matt Bloomfield, who's played God knows how many hundreds of games there, the likes of Akinfenwa, they've got a good solid goalkeeper in Ryan Alsop. They've got Joe Jacobson, who, as you said, we spoke to, the skipper. And the other thing that I wanted to touch on with that as well as Joe Jacobson is incredible set-piece delivery, which surely will be important in the final. It's played into my predictions. I don't know about you two.
Yeah, no, he's absolutely surprised me. I watched the first half of the first leg of the semi-final against Fleetwood, and I just couldn't believe how well Wycombe played, or you could say how bad Fleetwood played. But you have to give Wycombe credit on how they played. Obviously, the corner, that Jacobson swung in. He's done that a few times this season. I think he scored a hat-trick pretty much from doing it one game this season. But so I think that's where Oxford have to be careful on. Set pieces will be absolutely crucial for Wycombe in this game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to build even into that, I suppose even getting up the pitch to get in those dangerous areas. We watched them against Tranmere, and it's probably one of the few games that we could say we've done a little bit of research on. But what I mean is they play to their strengths. They're very direct, not very direct, but they go from back to front very quickly, and that you're gonna get knockdowns. You're gonna get put defenses under pressure. It's going to lead to long, to throw-ins and corners in dangerous areas and set pieces, in dangerous areas. So they obviously play to their strengths in that sense. We'll probably move on to, in a minute, maybe the negative side of that. But they're a team who are well drilled and know the best way for them to be effective on the pitch is getting up the pitch, getting into those areas where you can either then play off of second balls or set pieces, really. And it works. They're well drilled there in that sense.
And I wanted to ask you both about a couple of team selection dilemmas, because obviously one of the things that surprised us, having, as Charlie said, watched them earlier in the year, was Akinfenwa being on the bench for both of the semi-final legs. Because obviously that game we watched against Tranmere in a cup, they dominated the first half with him in the team and then threw it away against 10 men because they lost that focal point, and it had such a big difference in that game. Obviously, they've clearly found a way to play around that. They've got good other strikers at the club now, but do you think he will get a start in the final? He did it with Wimbledon, didn't he? So...
No, I can't. I think if the game sets up well, I think they'll bring him on. They're going to bring him on regardless. Even if they're winning or losing. If they're losing, obviously they're going to pump it up to him, get the flick-ons and that stuff. And even if they were winning, they would just make sure he can keep hold of the ball, really, and then try and take it to the corner. I think what he actually did for FC Wimbledon against Plymouth a few years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I don't expect him to start. Alex Samuel, Samuel was up top in the first leg, and he done very well. So I don't see. Well, wouldn't be surprised if he starts up top again.
I think we've all played as a centre half, and when you get to the 70th minute or something like that, and then you have someone like him coming off the bench, it's just a worst nightmare, isn't it? And what I mean is someone who's physical, who's strong. When you're in that sort of latter stages of the game, when you're starting to, fatigue starts to set in, he isn't the sort of the dream for you as a centre half. So I think he's a great asset to have off the bench. Like you say, I don't expect him to start, but regardless of how the game's going, I think he will feature, because as a back four gets, or any team gets tired, but particularly a back four, he's a great asset to bring off the bench and rejuvenating your side, really. You've always got an option with him, I think, when he's on the pitch. So, yeah, I do expect him to come on at some point, yeah.
I guess my penultimate question about Wycombe, and the final one in terms of the team selection, was probably the second leg hero in the semi-final. A man you know well from our network save, Craig, is Fred Onyedinma. I mean, he was the key man. He was brilliant against Fleetwood in that second leg, and probably the man that dragged them through more comfortably than they otherwise would have. So how big a part do you think he'll play in the final?
Oh, massive part. I think it's a weird one with Wycombe, because obviously there's no real one player, as in that's your main man and things like that. And obviously people say, oh yeah, but Akinfenwa's the main man because he's well known.
It's reputation rather than on the pitch, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. So with Wycombe, I think where obviously you say like Joe Jacobson's, Alex Samuel, who scored a couple of goals, Onyedinma scores, Grimmer. It's a few players. It seems to be, obviously what Charlie said, they're well drilled and there's no real standout player. I think that's how they got to third place in the table.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. Well, if you're a team setting up against them, it is difficult, because I suppose even at the elite level of the game, there must be some teams you think like, right, if we stop him, we essentially stop them playing, but not with Wycombe. I think that's the opposite of that. So I think as Karl Robinson, which we'll obviously move on to in a bit, he's probably got quite a bit of food for thought there, because they're probably a bit more dynamic. And I suppose that comes with experience, doesn't it? I think they're as much as Ainsworth's done a great job, I suppose he's got players on the pitch who you'd expect to be good leaders. And what I mean by that is can make changes in the game as a player as well. And do you know what I mean? Like, you're not completely reliant on the manager, I suppose, what I'm getting at. So I think it is a difficult team to set up against when there's no focal point for that, but actually a well-drilled, organised team.
And I guess the final question before we move on to Oxford and then the predictions is we have to talk about Gareth Ainsworth a bit. Obviously, he's conducted himself so well in the build-up to the semis and now the final. He's someone that both Joe Jacobson and Matt Cecil, the head of media, have talked so positively about at Wycombe. Whether they win this final or not, surely he's going to be heralded as a hero. And more importantly, if they don't go up, is probably going to be subject of a lot of championship interest.
No, I think, to be honest, by the sounds of it, he's got such a good ethos there. Everyone seems to be pulling in the same direction. And I think that's half the battle in any football team. But I think particularly with him, it seems as if there's a unity amongst the squad, which is difficult in the professional game nowadays when there's lots of money and things like that. How that would translate if he was to go to a bigger club, we've seen that with some managers, I don't know. But I think that, if you're talking about someone who is the heartbeat of a team, I think it's definitely from there. So for me, I think to have done what he's done with that squad, maybe, been a bit lucky with the whole points per game thing, but to be even in and around there with maybe the predictions that we made, but also, people who get paid a lot more money than us to come up with that kind of stuff as well. He has pulled up some trees doing that. So I've got nothing but praise for him. But obviously, will this be too much? I don't know.
No, my worry is say Wycombe don't get promoted. I think his style of football would not suit the Championship. I don't know which team, but we don't know obviously how the Championship's going to finish, because it could be anyone from anyone, to be honest, that will survive. But I don't know if that style of football would suit the Championship. Obviously, the Cali brothers kind of do the same thing, but it's half work and half not. Yeah, it'd be tough for Wycombe. I think if they don't get promoted, I think it'd be hard to keep his services. But it depends on obviously which team we want to fork out some money from.
Absolutely. I think it's fair for us to move on to Oxford now because we want to be as balanced as possible. Now, Craig, we're going to have to be very careful here because Charlie's made his views on Karl Robinson very clear. Despite multiple pros that have worked under him saying how fantastic he is on and off the pitch, and the fact that, probably similar to Gareth Ainsworth, he doesn't just get to know the player, he gets to know the person. And I think that's reflected in the way they perform. Obviously, a much tighter playoff semi-final, an enthralling penalty victory, former Luton player Cameron McGee and the unfortunate man on the night. But Oxford, I guess in terms of on the pitch, you would probably highlight that they've got some star men, which is probably the difference to Wycombe, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, I thought they played quite well in both semi-finals. It was tight. Portsmouth are a good side, and they feel disappointed that they didn't get through to the final. But Oxford, to be honest, the last couple of years, they've played some like cup games wise. They played against Premier League teams, and they've held their own against them. Got Newcastle's extra time in the FA Cup a few months ago. So yeah, they can definitely hold their own, and being the players doesn't surprise me.
I've changed my opinion slightly on him, and I say that this is not a shameless plug, but it's listening to that Dean Bowditch interview that you did, and obviously his time at MK with him. I do think that if I was to be hand on heart of the two teams, I think who would survive better. I do think Wycombe, although Oxford might be on paper the better team, I think there's a better infrastructure there, possibilities for the squad staying together and all of that. I don't know, I think Karl Robinson's he's always done a fantastic job there, but I don't know. I can see the positives and negatives to Oxford going up here, if I'm honest.
I wanted to lead on to a point that Craig had mentioned there regarding Karl Robinson and big games, because obviously both at MK Dons and here at Oxford, he's been famed for his teams turning up in big games, causing cup shocks, causing bigger teams to perhaps have a bad day at the office. Is that something that's going to bear into labour when we get into the final? Because obviously it's just about the biggest game. The fans aren't there. Will he be able to G the players up, given that he does it so well for major cup ties?
To be honest, it's the same for both sides. To be honest, I think to be honest, it's been the same for obviously in the League Two playoff final, where it's hard to G people up when you've got no crowd. It is hard. Obviously, you look at the Championship over the weekend, where only one home team won the whole weekend. That was Fulham. That was on Friday night. But yeah, it's going to be weird. It's hard. I think they'll motivate their own players in their own specific way.
No, I agree. I think he's been in the game long enough, to know what works and what doesn't work in those sorts of environments. I suppose it's one thing to go to Man United away where you're a massive underdog, or not Man United away, but do you know what I mean? That kind of game, and be a massive underdog. Maybe this one, it's a good chance of them winning this. So that's a slightly different mindset and a slightly different mentality to be in that siege sort of thing where you would be normally. So I'd be interested to see how he copes with that.
To be honest, Karl Robinson has got experience of taking the team up into the Championship. Obviously, MK up, obviously, by automatic promotion, but he will learn from his own mistakes from being in the Championship. That's a season, obviously, with a smaller team, smaller budget. Yeah. Obviously, I think that will be in the back of his mind of trying to get his team promoted to the Championship.
I think we better move on to Oxford's team selection. Obviously, a fair few more players at sort of peak ages in and around that time, but still dots of experience about. Jamie Mackey started up front in the second leg of the semi. They've got Simon Eastwood in goal, who obviously saved the winning penalty, but he's a cracking goalkeeper. And they've got some real star quality in there, as we mentioned. The likes of Cameron Brannigan, who I think is one of the best players in League One. They've got Marcus Brown up there as well. They've got some high-quality players. They've even got young Ben Woodburn on the bench, but he's not made as much of an impact as perhaps others would expect. But let me know what you think of the Oxford team. Obviously, a few more standout players, but they seem to be pretty well gelled as a team as well. So it's not going to have too much of an influence, is it?
No, I think you've got Matty Taylor up top. He was former Bristol Rovers and Bristol City striker. He's top goal scorer for him, 16 goals this season. So, and I think he kept someone like him to come off the bench for Oxford is obviously a massive plus for them. But no, I'm a massive fan. Marcus Brown, as you pointed out, and he scored a really good goal in the semi-final. Yeah, no, this is actually a good side. To be honest, when you look at it, it's two different philosophies with Wycombe and Oxford. Both seem, obviously, yes, they both seem to gel quite well, but obviously they've got two different styles of football, and that's going to be quite interesting to see. But Forsyth Henry as well, another player I'm a big fan of, obviously seen a few times now. Yeah. I think this is a really interesting Oxford side, and I'll make my prediction in there, but this could really go down to the wire.
Yeah, no, I haven't got much to add to that. Apart from, I think on paper they're obviously, in terms of man for man, much superior. Like I say, how that I agree with you that they've gelled quite well, but whether that will be enough to break down a well-oiled Wycombe, I don't know. But yeah, I completely agree. In terms of if you were to look at it objectively on paper, you'd go for a quite comfortable Oxford win in terms of man for man and quality of players. But as we all know, football is not played on paper, is it, Craig?
No, it's not.
Well, I guess, Charlie, you've mentioned a key point, which is football isn't played on paper. And if we were playing on paper, we'd be predicting Wycombe to lose, as we did at the start of the season. But they've proved us wrong once. And will they prove us wrong again is the next question. So I want to know, you can start in whichever order you want. What is your prediction for the League One playoff final on Monday evening?
Yeah, I'll go. My worry is if both teams get promoted, they're going to go straight back down. Obviously, we know that obviously as Luton fans, we know how big the step it up is from League One to the Championship with budgets and all that stuff. Obviously, Wycombe will not have barely a budget for next season if they do get into the Championship. With Oxford, I think it'll be the same. However, I think Oxford will win 2-1.
Yeah, do you know what? I think my head would say an Oxford win, but there's a romantic part of me, and it's not just because Wycombe we've had a few dealings with, and they've been great with our podcast. So
yeah, absolutely.
Partisan stuff aside, I love the romanticism of basically someone like Gareth Ainsworth, who's been a servant of the club for so long. The players that they've got. There is a certain romantic element if Wycombe do go up, and I do like a bit of that. If I'm honest, like you say, they'll struggle if they do. I just think what might carry them through is the unity of the team. And I know that sounds like a bit of a crappy sort of statement, but you're talking about knows it inside out. They know their game plan inside. They know their who's going to be where, what their the best way to win a football match for them. And I think that might be enough against the individual brilliance of Oxford. So I think it'll be tough. I think it'll be a bit of a grind out sort of thing. I think Wycombe might stifle early on, get to half time and maybe step up a bit from there. So I'm going to go the opposite of Craig. I'm going to go 2-1 Wycombe. But it wouldn't surprise me if Oxford did come out quite resounding winners as well.
That's pretty much sitting on the fence there, but okay.
No, because I think Wycombe will win, but what I'm saying is it's on a knife edge, isn't it? Let's be honest.
And I guess whoever I predict to win is going to be devastated because I haven't got a good track record based on League Two. So, unfortunately for them, I am also going to sort of stick in Charlie's court and just go for Wycombe to nick it. And the reason being is after the Northampton game where you saw how crucial that extra experience was, I can't see past them. Their game style will probably suit the Wembley pitch better. I know Oxford will keep the ball, but Wycombe can sit a bit deeper in a shape if they want and then come out after an hour or go out of the traps and then sit back. It works a little bit better in that style. And I just think game changers off the bench, the likes of Akinfenwa, if you need a goal, maybe the man. And the most important thing for me in this is I think set-piece delivery will make the difference. And I know both of them have got good set-piece delivery, but Joe Jacobson's this season has been exceptional. So I'm going to bank on that being the difference. I'm going to go for Wycombe to win 2-0. I'm going to go for it being 1-0 in the first half. And then late on, Oxford coming out and Wycombe hitting a second on the break. It may well turn out to be another stupid prediction, but I think Wycombe are going to nick it.
No. The only bit I'm going to say is no.
No, I think, do you know what? I think to sum it up for me, there's no obvious winner here. And I think all three of us would probably agree that if the team we predicted didn't win, it wouldn't surprise you, is what I'm saying. No. It's not a massive gulf between the two. It's
certainly a brilliant achievement for both sides to be in the final. We wish them both luck, and may the best team win is the most important thing. If you did enjoy this episode, though, please do put a thumbs up on the video. Let us know down in the comments what your predictions are. You can tell us how stupid we are, but just be careful because some Exeter fans got egg on their face last time. So just be careful before you go too bold with your prediction. Subscribe to the channel for regular episodes from both this prediction series, resuming with the Championship tomorrow, and regular interviews from professionals as well. And a big thanks for watching. You can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3, and we'll see you next time.